Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 2 of the ANTIDOTE podcast. I'm Shark300.
I'm Sansol.
And we're very excited to bring to you guys a new episode. Today we have a couple of things to cover, and I am very happy to get into them. Once again, this is a leftist, feminist, men's rights podcast centered around men, by men, for men, to talk about things like dating, lifestyle, self-help, and finding yourself as a guy in today's world where things aren't so kind for us. And with no hatred towards women. And we want to talk about a couple of things. Today's episode, I want to talk about something really interesting. This would be one part of just about a 5-part or 6-part series throughout the life of this podcast about the manosphere. And the manosphere has a couple of different parts in it: men's rights activists, pickup artists, incels, fathers advocacy groups, and this one that we're going to talk about today being MGTOW. For me personally, one of the most interesting parts of the manosphere, because they position themselves a little bit differently than the other ones in a way that I think is really interesting, but also belies a very, very strange and also worrying trend that I see amongst not only men, but society in general. And I think a lot of people miss it when they criticize them. And I think that's going to be the topic for today. So speaking about MGTOW, the reason why I wanted to bring this up now, no better time than ever, is that last week, Reddit actually banned the big MGTOW subreddit. You hear about that, Sond?
I heard about it from you. I'm actually surprised that it took them this long, because MGTOW is a cesspool of all sorts of really negative views. I know that they banned the incel one a long time ago. I thought that it was banned alongside it.
Mm-hmm. So actually, if you didn't know, there are many incel and manosphere subreddits like slut hate and equal rights for equal fights. I think there was incel, then there was true cell, there was brain cells as well, MGTOW 1 through 4 that got banned, but the big one that was the original one was MGTOW number 1, and going their own way. Now, have you heard of men going their own way before?
I have. It was one of the first things when I was starting to get into online politics that I was kind of exposed to through ContraPoints and H Bomber Guy. And, I kind of knew some people that were like that, so I wasn't completely shocked that they existed, but the extent to which they existed in the real world, that was the more shocking part for me.
Yeah, they're real. They're out there. They're walking among us. And they're
among us.
And they're definitely worrying. So MGTOW is a really interesting section of the manosphere. Like I said, I think they're very interesting. They position themselves as the more rational thinking and clear-headed version of a lot of the other like manosphere, angry, upset, violent sections of like men's rights activism and the manosphere that we're usually used to, like incels and men's rights activists and pickup artists. Their whole shtick, the thing that they pride themselves on, is like wanting to go your own way. All right, they're tired of women. They're tired of the hypergamy. They're tired of the pussy whip society. All right, they're tired of all of it. They're tired of being put down by the man, and they're tired of being put under the labia of the female, and they're trying to escape and go their own way. They position themselves as guys who just want to escape the sort of status quo that we have today, with what they call a society that bind for women to the detriment of men. But the really big thing is that even though they say they want to go their own way, and they say they want to only like do stuff with guys, but not in a gay way though, they seem to talk about women a lot. They talk about women a lot, and it seems like their idea of always wanting to be just like away from women as much as possible. You see a big trend of them always talking about how they would like to stay away from women, limit exposure to the female as much as possible, like it's fucking like ionizing radiation or something. Spend too much time, they're going to destroy you. They seem not to do that very much. And one of the big reasons why is why this is so, and why I don't think that they hold up to the values that they'd like to show off as much, because MGTOW isn't just about that. It's a hotbed for a lot of other things: misogyny, anger, hatred towards society, hatred towards women specifically. Not only that, a lot of the views that they carry and a lot of the ideas that they espouse go for a very conservative way of thinking, which can lead, and if you're that far extreme already with trying to say that like society is so evil that it's controlled by women and you'll be destroyed by them, that leads you to a lot of other positions that are very bad. One of the big indictments of MGTOW, not even online, in the real world, is that, let me show you guys this. Back in January 2020, a U.S. Coast Guard officer was planning a terrorist attack who posted on MGTOW, not even a little bit, tens of thousands of times over a 2-year span, not even like 4 years, 6 years or anything, over a 2-year span, tens of thousands of times. This guy was a prolific MGTOW user and a prolific person in the community. And not only was he hating on things like women and spouting misogyny, he was spouting racism, homophobia, xenophobia, anti-Semitism. He searched on his computer things like lists of rabbis by states, how to take out rabbis. He expressed the desire.
Is there like a special, I'm sorry, is there a special way that you have to take out the rabbis as opposed to, any other normal murder? Like what? Like,
yeah,
here this says that you have to use garlic and wooden stakes or something like that. Is it like a vampire? I don't know what the fuck he could.
You have to use non-kosher bullets. Everything else they're immune to.
Interesting.
Completely immune. It's crazy. They don't tell you about that. Yeah, he searched things like school killings. He was looking up schools. He had many firearms on him, and he was looking to take out as many Jewish people as possible. His search terms included how to get rid of Jews, enemy of the world, George Soros lives where, Jews in the government. Yeah, like I said, list of rabbis by state, where do senators live in DC, and how can white people rise against the Jews? Just he was not necessarily the smartest guy. He had like hiding his tracks. He seemed like pretty out there. Not necessarily the biggest brain guy out there searching how do I commit terrorist crime search. Oh fuck, they found me.
Yeah, and this is kind of I don't know if we're going to touch on this at any point, but two things that I say often about when it comes to like extremist positions, right? Extremist positions usually come out of politics based in some sort of negative emotion, usually hate. So like if you look at Nazis, they hate other races, right? And that's the basis of their political movement, right? MGTOWs, their whole political movement is based in hatred of women, not, actually uplifting men, because if that was their point, then they wouldn't be posting about how much they fucking hate women all the time, right?
Yeah, they wouldn't be talking about women as much. They'd be talking about guys a lot more.
Yeah, but like I'm sure there are some posts in there that are about, uplifting men, but it's mostly about how much they fucking hate women. So you can see what the real movement is about, right? And I mean, you can apply this to lefty circles too. Like there are some lefty circles that are like MLs that their entire hatred is only about how much they hate America, to the exclusion of everything else, to the exclusion of actually getting any real progress in the world, right? So it's not just like conservatives can fall into this mindset. Lefties do too. So that's why I like to tell people you should have a politics and a worldview that's based in positivity, right? Like hope, right? I have a hope for a better future. Otherwise, if it's based in some kind of really negative emotion, like hatred or anger or whatever, those are things that you can possibly use for the ultimate goal of the good thing. But if it's just based in the bad thing, then you're going to get these crazy fucks that fall into one rabbit hole and then become hating of all sorts of groups.
That's why we're basing our politics in this stream about men, because we love men. All right,
we love us some boys.
Yep, this is so true.
Well, some adult boys.
Adult boys, yes. Adult boys, yes. Legal boys. It's one thing to say things about MGTOW, but I wanted to talk about MGTOW. I want to look at MGTOW, okay? Because Against Hateful Subreddits, which is a pretty cool subreddit based around being against hateful subreddits and for good subreddits, decided to categorize and archive a lot of threads that are posted on MGTOW about MGTOW over their lifespan on Reddit before they got clapped by the mods. So this is one of the first ones that I found, and it's so interesting. So this one is, when I look at pictures of naked women now, I see something completely different than before. I see a vampiric devil wrapped in a pretty exterior. I'm less and less attracted to them. This one got 49 upvotes by the time of it being archived by Against Hateful Subreddits. And it goes, everything you like about women is on the outside. Their smile, their face, breasts, stomach, smooth skin, vag, ass. he lists out so many things. He knows a lot of things he likes about women, okay? He thinks about them a lot. The things they say or the things they do, these are all surface level appearances from the women. They are not who she is on the inside. On the inside, she is a vampiric devil who has the intent on taking everything that she wants from you and using it to her own agenda. They are whores and they are manipulators. That is who they are. And he goes around talking about how you should not be bonded to those things, and they're a big deception. This is like, we
sucked on our mom's tits and now we love all women. What the fuck is up with that? Is essentially what he says. I do like, really quick before we actually touch on anything. I like how he says that the things they say or the things they do, those are all surface level, right? Well, it feels like that's like one that's actually not the surface level things. Yeah. Everything else, sure, you can say that, but the things they say and do, that's actually not surface level. Yeah. So yeah, what do you want to say about it first?
So it seems to not just be about, society's bad for men. This is just like an incredible showing of just pure spite and hatred. Not even, I don't like women or like the dynamics between men and women in today's society is just like not that great. It's women are devil creatures. They are sirens leading your golden ship astray, and they are going to destroy you. It's just, come on, man, chill for like a moment. Chill. And the thing is, a lot of them have this same experience that they say. Same experience here. I'm 3 times more repelled than attracted. Bro, just say that you're gay. It's okay. Listen, we're accepting. And when a woman has an apparent good qualities inside, I always wait for the mask to slip, and it always does. Always. Listen, bud, if you just are attracted to bad women, I guess, or you're always getting drawn into bad relationships, that's not a problem with women, and we'll talk about this a little later. That's more of a problem with you. And they all go on to say, like, this is I've had the exact same thing happen to me, and then we get banned for saying what is so incredibly true. I think of snakes, and I know quite popular book that covers this. You are right. Once the attraction fades, and it always does, the thin veil is gone, and the sheer disappointment and horror. Holy shit, women are like fucking eldritch horrors. And once the spell goes away, you'll see their true fate.
They say that MGTOW is men going their own way, but again, they are definitely fixating on women and the negative aspects of women that they perceive. And I wonder how many experiences with women they have before they actually fall into this rabbit hole. The thing is, it's not just like you would imagine. For people who talk like this, they're like older guys or something, like 30 or something, who've been around the block. A lot of these posts are by minors, and not just like the guys working in West Virginia. I'm talking like 16. They're like posts by like 16 and 17-year-olds who are like, new guy into MGTOW. My school is run by sluts and whores. Let me see if did I save this one? Basically, it was this 17-year-old who posted on MGTOW about how
His school is run by sluts and whores, and he needs a good way to not think about, get his mind off of women or something. And they said a good way to think about that is that to think of women as like, for one, toddlers, and two, apes that are like below human beings. They're like always at like a child's level of thinking and understanding, which does worry me because some of them say they would like to have sex with women still anyways, or like pay prostitutes. So I'm like, are they not human and children? And so if that's the case, then why would you ever want to have sex with one at all? But hey, listen, we're just here to watch and observe. Watch and observe. Basically, this one starts off 229 upvotes by the time it was archived. Random girl messaged me yesterday, and then they said MGTOW is about hating women. You apparently don't read the posts on your movement or the ones they support. And he responds, lol, don't you have better stuff to do? Absolute dunk. He really destroyed that woman. The woman will never recover from such an absolute dunking, honestly. And then the first post says, clearly doesn't understand MGTOW. Funny that women don't seem to understand the opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. We're just having a good laugh at the clowns dancing. So he goes on to be like, oh, the true meaning of MGTOW, it's complete indifference. We're indifferent on women. This next post doesn't really show that. Men don't just wake up one day and decide to hate them. Women gave MGTOW many reasons to do so. It's what they've done as a gender and as a group since MGTOW doesn't trust women, and thus they couldn't derive attention and resources from them. Therefore, they concluded that MGTOW hates them. You guys do hate women. Okay, thank you. I appreciate you.
So full of contradictions, like from the beginning. Men don't just wake up one day and decide to hate on them, right? They've given us so many reasons to hate them, and then literally one sentence later, since MGTOW don't trust women and thus they couldn't derive any attention and resources from them, they've concluded that MGTOW hate them. So do they hate them or not? Yeah, they do, obviously.
Once you've reached true enlightenment, and I want to hang on this word enlightenment here because we're going to be talking about this later, because like I said, one of the really big and for me interesting points about MGTOW is how they position themselves as the enlightened ones. Once you reach true enlightenment, you don't hate women. You just understand their motivations. Do you hate the spider catching and killing and eating a fly? Do you hate the orca killing and eating a seal? Those animals follow their instincts. So are women. Fucking what?
And according to them, their instincts are to extract as much wealth and resources out of men as possible and then leave them for a younger or stronger man or some shit like that. That's what the instinct is.
Yeah, apparently they're the woman understander. So they really position themselves as people who really understand the world. They are the enlightened ones and the ones who know so much more, and they're not fueled by hate. They say that for when you become true MGTOW, the red pill rage subsides, and then it's all just pure understand. You become Zen, your hair falls off, you grow an arrow on your forehead, and it's just perfect. It's beautiful, honestly. So this person says, simp tries to shame men into dating single moms. So, and then basically what happened is some woman just goes, he says he tried to get shamed. So basically what happened is some woman goes, I don't understand why men are so like against dating single moms. All right. That's it. That's literally it. She's like, I don't understand why so many guys are so like against dating single moms or whatever. A lot of things go into that. We don't have to talk about that here. But he responds with a whole laundry list of why there are reasons why he doesn't want to date a single mom. And then he runs to MGTOW to be like, I absolutely dunked in this filthy, disgusting simp tried to shame me for not wanting to date a disgusting horse single mom. It's just really weird. And then this person responds, baking tree. Hey, I don't even care at this point. I'm gonna sit back and smoke and then he says the F word, with a whiskey and watch all that shit. Hopefully RWDS will be a thing in the future. I don't see a point in caring that here, but no, the RWDS, that is code for a mass shooting, a death squad.
Is that really? Yep. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Right wing death squad. So I mean they just like actually
Really going your own way, going to people and trying to shoot them down, right?
Fucking weird as fuck, dude.
Very
It's
curious.
so weird. It's so weird. I just can't imagine devoting so much of my energy or my thoughts towards a group of people that I just like really don't like that much.
Yeah, you spend all of this time thinking about, talking about all of these things, but then you're like, man, if you really just didn't like them that much, wouldn't you just kind of go your own way when you build a whole community around talking about other things? But they always come back to this. All of the most upvoted posts aren't like self-help or anything. All of them are all talking about their experiences, about how much they hate women, how much society is being destroyed by women, and their sluts and their simps, and not like, hey, let's hey, what's a great way to learn how to get better at cleaning my room when I wake up? Go ahead.
I wonder if there's like a thread, like, well, I guess we can't check it now, but I wonder if there's like an archive of a single thread where they actually were giving each other like life advice or like real, like actually good. If there was like that one wizened old, like wizard basically who hadn't had sex
wizard.
in like 40, MGTOW wizard that hasn't had sex in like 48 years. He's like, 68 or something like that, and he's sitting there with his beard like hanging down to his knees in his rocking chair, like giving little bits of information or little quips to young men on how to be the best MGTOW that they can be.
There are definitely some after reading through, there are definitely some where they talk about real life advice, or under these posts they point to some life advice like, oh, get a job, get a trade, do these sorts of things. A lot of it is the typical sort of like build your legacy and get money and forget about women. That's typically a lot of the stuff that they go for, but not necessarily the sort of advice that where it's centered around just giving advice. Also, one thing that I want to, under taking away rights, I added a new link. Do you see that?
Yeah, I see that right there.
Just the bottom. You can click on that one, and I want to go to this one because I remembered that this one actually talks about something that I really wanted to touch on. So this is a really interesting thing that MGTOW does a lot. So what they do a lot of the times is that they create their own stories around people. And this is going to lead us to the second half of this. But they create their own stories around people. Basically what happened is that The Guardian posted an article where the author talked about MGTOW, talked about the misogyny in MGTOW, the other bigotry in MGTOW, the conservatism, the reactionary politics that surrounds MGTOW. Obviously MGTOW picked it up. They posted it on the Reddit. It got 384 upvotes by the time it got archived. Yeah, by the time it got archived. And there's some really crazy things in here. So the top comment says, "We are fascinating, and they are too self-absorbed to understand that someone can deny them. How can a man just walk away?" I really don't think it's, man, I can't understand why they can't walk away. Why? And it's more like, I can't believe they're so fucking racist and misogynist, dude.
I can't believe they're like this. It's less like, it's less fascination, like aghast with the actions that they're taking, and like it's just like unbelievable. It's more like watching a dumpster fire, right?
Yeah, it's
like
not the fascination. Yeah, it's not the fascination
like
you get.
Kiwi farms and watching how they like dox people. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, these people are insane, Yeah,
it's not the fascination you get when you're when you go to the zoo and watch the penguins. It's the fascination you get when you see like someone on 57 drugs like shitting in the middle of the street and then like rolling around in it. Like out of their mind, like, oh my gosh, that he needs some help.
I've this one right here. It's like the second comment thread. They never explain why this is toxic. It's toxic because this bitch can't get a man, and clearly this is the reason. And then Sawyer 94117 says, "Here's how her relationships go. 1. Hide true self. 2. Once we're comfortable, let him know how much I hate him for being a man. 3. Grow distant. 4. Blame him for not being quote unquote man enough to handle a quote unquote real woman. I almost feel sorry because for most of history, men solved women's problems. But here's one that says she doesn't need a man. Besides, if I did try to do anything, I'd just be a patriarch anyway. They really do see themselves as like the victim here, you know?
Oh, they're the really big victim. Here's the thing. They point out some good things. They point out some good things. Like sometimes women hold up things like the patriarchy, say that the guy isn't man enough. This is true. Women uphold the patriarchy just as much as guys do, and sometimes even more depending on the situation. These things happen. But this is what I'm talking about with this story. They're really big storytellers. And with a lot of these types of people, how they get so popular is they weave webs that people get trapped in because they seem so relatable. And they always keep you in the right. It's really interesting. All of their stories always keep them in the right? So when they see these sorts of things, it's not like us. It can't be us. Oh, obviously what happens is she gets with a guy, saps his resources, then he gets comfortable and expresses emotion, and then she says he isn't man enough and then dumps. Does he know that? He doesn't know who this person is. He invented that story in his head. And all the upvotes and the people commenting on it, they're like, oh yeah, definitely. That's definitely what happens, dude. Yeah, every time. Yep, that's why. They can't just disagree because they fundamentally don't agree with our way of thinking. They have to disagree because they have to be someone who does this, this, and this. What we like to call that is rationalization. And that really moves us into the second part, which is how a lot of these MGTOW tout the Enlightenment. What the Enlightenment is supposed to be after the big wave of when you become red pilled and when you finally understand the idea, the workings, the mechanisms of the woman. Once you do that, then you completely understand. Then you're just like, you're the wise monk. Like I said, your arrow grows on your forehead and your hair all falls off. And it's just like, it's amazing. Then you finally understand. That Enlightenment, along with positioning themselves as really big rational thinkers, as people who understand, they're on the outside, they have knowledge, they're privy to knowledge that your average human being is not. They're in the out group, they're the smart ones. That positioning is an appeal to what humans like to do, which is rational thought. After the Enlightenment period, I think lots of researchers say that we've gone a little too far into the idea of always wanting to be perfectly rational. On top of that, we have positioned ourselves as being the only creature on Earth that is uniquely rational. We uniquely have ration. We uniquely are predisposed to wanting to find the most rational outcome. We're predisposed to wanting to find the most true thing in the world, which a lot of researchers these days are starting to push against. The Enlightenment world has an innate tendency to degenerate into myth, reason into unreason, and that this tendency of reason towards unreason is exacerbated by overly ambitious efforts to suppress and eliminate reason. So this is a researcher here that wrote a book about irrationality in the human mind and how we process that and where we've gone and the ideas of wanting to be the most rational, the most biggest brain, biggest cock logic lord in the room, and how that tends to lead us to not only to forget things, but also lead us to irrationality, period. How it ultimately, the want to eliminate something that's so fundamental to human beings and fundamental to the human process of being, something like irrationality. It's something like trying to eliminate love from human interactions. It's like trying to eliminate anger or like pain from the human existence. You can't really do that. No matter what, sometimes and I know you guys do it, probably after this stream, once you're done, you're going to sit in bed and come up with a bunch of like things in your head, a bunch of like ideas, and then hurt your own damn feelings. I know some of you guys do that. You're sitting there and you start making fun of yourself, clowning on yourself, pointing out all of your flaws, and then you just hurt yourself. That's the pain there. And a lot of that is irrational. You know, you point out all of your flaws, like, your skin isn't perfect, or you're a little chunkier than you want to be, or you're a little too short, or maybe you remember this one thing that one person said about you on the internet, and now you carry that with you all of the time. That's completely irrational. Why would you do something like that? What does that matter? You're a perfectly fine human being. There are people who look to you uglier than you who have relationships, and there are people who are like bigger than you, shorter than you, who are in beautiful relationships. Why would you ever think that that's precluding you from doing something like wanting to be in a relationship, being able to be in a relationship, right?
It's all
And
about justifying your own situation in your own mind. You can't be the
very,
one at fault. You can't be the. I mean, literally every single human being on Earth has been the person that has done this with themselves, right? Well, I'm not the one that did anything wrong there, right? Maybe it took convincing from other people for you to like actually see it that way, or maybe you knew it deep down but you didn't want to admit it to yourself, so you rationalized some way for you to like let's say like you said something mean to someone one time, right? That you like weren't intending to hurt their feelings, right? But you like very much did, right? The rationalization in your mind trying to make some kind of reason why you're in the right and why everybody else is in the wrong can really be a like super fucking damaging thing towards your growth as a person. Why hadn't I finished college yet? Why don't I have? Why did I have this relationship end? Well, is it my fault or is it their fault? Well, it doesn't have to be any one person's fault, number one. But number two, like I was putting all the blame on everybody else. Well, the reason that I haven't finished college is because of this, and this reason, right? When really it was I didn't like doing homework and fuck school, right?
yeah, true.
And why?
I'm sick of this shit.
And why did this relationship end? Was it just because she was a cheating bitch, or like what, or like whatever the relationship ended, right? Well, it probably was also because I wasn't being very considerate, right? And that led them to not really want to be with me anymore. And there were all these clues along the way. And once I started looking at the world less through just my point of view and trying to see the world through another individual's point of view, so that you can actually see what's going on in the situation,
And so you ask yourself, should we not think of humans as uniquely rational? I mean, we got to this point. What we did, we got science, we have the scientific method, we do all of these things that we think that we're like pretty rational in comparison to like, I don't know, like a cow, what like a spider, a snake. We seem like we're pretty rational, right? We're here, right? It seems pretty rational. Well, here's the thing. The researcher posits that this is the traditional view, but there is a counter tradition, however, which says that human beings are uniquely an irrational animal. Not only are we not a uniquely rational one, we are uniquely irrational one. We uniquely have problems. Because of our big advanced super monkey brain, not even normal monkey brain, super monkey brain, we have more capacity to be more irrational than any other animal could possibly be. Honestly, animals are rational to the extent that they do not get mired in deliberation and hesitation, but always cut right to the chase and execute those actions that are perfectly suited to the sorts of creatures that they are. Well, we sit there just paralyzed by doubt and paralyzed by worry, paralyzed by fear, making up instances in our heads where how things could go wrong. You think like the snake thinks about what could go wrong when it goes to just swallow an egg. It's an egg. My jaw unhinges. The egg fits. Put the egg in my throat. That's what happens. Seems pretty rational. I want to eat. I put egg in my throat. I mean, there's a reason why we have existed for nowhere near as long as snakes or crocodiles do. We think that we're so much smarter and so much more rational than they are. When we experience so many more problems, how long do you think that the crocodile sits and ponders about his existence? No, he's gonna eat that damn gazelle because he's hungry, and he's gonna shit where he sleeps, and that's the life that they live. People assume that being rational. One thing that people do is that we assume that being rational and being emotional are on two different sides of the spectrum. And I don't know if you've seen this too much, Son. You probably have, where you see that like especially like rhetorically, you see someone being like super loud or super emotional, right? When they're making an argument, and then you instantly think, oh, that person's just arguing from emotion.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And it's easy to tell. I mean, this is just like debate bro type stuff that I've kind of picked up on. It's easy to tell when someone's just doing something from emotion, because they'll say something that they can't substantiate, right? Like all X does Y, right? And you're like, can you substantiate that in any way, shape, or form? It's like, oh, I don't need to substantiate. Everybody knows this, right? Mm-hmm. That sort of thing will clue you in. So the people that are most unsure of their positions are usually the most loud.
Yeah, very loud, because they have to probably compensate for something with maybe not knowing or being afraid of something with just being very loud. But there's a big problem with assuming that being outwardly emotional, it means that you're clearly being irrational, because that's still playing to our idea that when you're expressing emotion, you have to be arguing from emotion because you're expressing it so much. Wow. The emotion has to be overflowing from inside of you and filling all the voids of everything else in your head and clouding and muddying your view. That's why you're arguing like this. Has nothing. And the calm, cool, collected guy is the one who's always has it together. I mean, just listen to fucking, like, I don't know. We can talk. We can bring up anyone. Actually, let's not bring up anyone specific. Imagine someone sitting there. Imagine you're watching a debate. There's a very calm, very cool, very collected person sitting there spouting the dumbest possible positions that you ever heard in your entire life. They have no sourcing to back up their claim, and the other person is angry. They're upset, but they're saying things that are factually true. Is it not? You've probably seen this before. And does that person being calm and collected make their points any more true? No, they're absolutely not. They're not any more true than the person who's arguing what it seems like outwardly very emotionally. Because we assume that because we think that being emotional and being rational are on two separate sides of the spectrum in the human mind, where they absolutely are not. Not only that, sometimes they can live in absolute tandem. A lot of the times they do. Not only that, I would posit that emotion is much stronger than the rational mind. The rational mind is what we think of when we go through arguments, when we try and formulate logic, when we try and formulate things like ideas. I think, and researchers kind of back this up, that the emotional mind is more powerful than the lizard brain. You're right, is way more powerful than the rational mind can ever be, because the emotional mind controls, sometimes unknowingly, the rational mind to pull those arguments. That person isn't arguing from emotion, they're arguing from their rational mind, but it's being puppeted by their emotional mind. People who claim that they're not emotional, if you tell them they're wrong, a lot of the times what you'll see is a really emotional response. So you've probably seen someone who comes into a debate, got all of the fucking swagger, the coolest cucumber, all right? And you walk up and you go, "You're wrong." What do? A lot of times they don't just sit there and go, "No." You see a really big emotional response. And you saw that with like the MGTOW. That person criticized MGTOW was instantly, what do? They started to insult. They started to attack. They started to deride. They started to make up stories about the person, even to justify their own worldview. They don't know a thing about this person. They probably haven't visited their Twitter. They haven't visited like anything. They haven't spoken to them. They haven't heard them talk about anything. All they see is this article and it's criticizing them instantly. They have to be this, and this instantly without any other introspection. That is not just a rational mind ticking away. That is their emotional mind hijacking that rational mind and running with it.
I think that the people that are most into the whole logic lord thing, and this isn't the case for everybody, but the case for most people like this, the like super big logic lord people, they're actually trying their damnedest to justify why they feel a certain way, and so like through the self rationalization, they come to the conclusion at which they do. So I think that the people that get most emotional are the ones that and like show it are the ones that are like super logic lord people and then get called out on it, and they get super mad when their worldview that they've constructed that they think is so airtight gets called into question.
Mm-hmm. Because to think that your rationalization is so incredibly airtight, I think that's pretty irrational too. Lots of the times they're either like decent or questionable arguments to your frame of knowledge, but to not accept that is extremely irrational, and usually that's driven by emotion as well. I mean, you see this in like day-to-day life. A lot of relationship guides and coaches and therapists have talked about how when how they have a bunch of couples in, and one person in the couple will be better at debating than the other one. All right, the other one is a one is a DGGer, okay, and the other one is a normie. All right, so one is really good at debate. So what they do, a problem happens in the relationship, and then they debate. They start debating, they start arguing, they're throwing shit at each other, and then one comes out the winner. Usually it's not the person who's great at debate. One's usually better at formulating their arguments, putting together a story, and making the other person believe it because it just seems rational to them. Now, is that person always right? Because we already know that there are people who have abusive tendencies in relationships who are good at debating, and you'll sit there and be like, they're wrong, but they're so right when they say that they seem so right when they say that they're wrong. And so it's important to understand, like, things like debate and things like formulating your thoughts are in no way just purely a point to genuine rationality. It's just a skill, like anything else, like learning how to swim, like being a better runner, like a muscle to work out. You're debating things. Your debating mind is just something that you just practice with, because you see this all the time, especially in like debate classes. You'll be given a debate topic and you'll be told to debate it. I remember I won a debate about how horses should wear their pants, because I said it should only be on the back legs, because the front two legs are not legs, those are arms, because arms are defined as things that have shoulders and are connected to the front part of the body, and that's arms, right? And so they wouldn't wear pants in their arms because that'd be ridiculous. And then I was able to say that fins are arms, and like the front two pincers on centipedes are arms, and bat wings are arms. Like all of those things are arms, so they would wear it on their legs. That's ridiculous. If you think, that's absolutely ridiculous. And the thing, it's happened to me too. I didn't know that I did this until I started reading up about this, but I did this to one of my exes. All right. And I'll tell this story here for you guys. I did this to one of my exes. Debate Bro Shark debated his girlfriend. So we were driving and my girlfriend at the time brought up something to me. I don't want to give it out because it's very personal to them, and that's their story to tell, and I'm not going to tell it to a room full of people that they probably don't want it to go to. But it was, let's say it had to do with like criminal justice, okay? And they took a position that seemed to me to be like a pretty conservative position on criminal justice and like drug stuff, okay? So instead of being like, hey, let me just listen, I went to, I gotta debate this bitch. And so while we were driving, instead of just listening, I debated her on this topic. And then at the end of that discussion, I didn't feel great about myself because you know what I heard in the other in the passenger seat? A little bit of whimpering. And then she started crying. I debated my girlfriend into fucking crying, okay? Because I wasn't listening. My emotional mind took over the rational part of my brain, because she didn't want to get into a debate about the ethics of the criminal justice system. She wanted to vent to her boyfriend about a situation that hurt her. And so and I still think about that, and it's really sad. You know, we were obviously able to make up, but it was really unfortunate that happened.
I did the exact same thing over the exact same topic.
No.
but she didn't cry. This was my first serious girlfriend. It was when I was my first year in college, and she was like very, very, very conservative, and I was very, very, very not. I wasn't even a debate bro back then, right? I just knew more about the subject matter than her. And when it was during the Ferguson, Missouri riots over Michael Brown, and everything that she said, I had a response to because it was common talking points, and I watched a lot of Jon Stewart, right? So I had a response to everything she said, and she got mad. At that time, we thought we were going to get married. Thank God that didn't happen. But she's like, what are we going to do if we have kids? I was like, we're not going to talk about politics, that's for damn sure, because you're going to look dumb every single time. And then we had a very uncomfortable dinner at IHOP because she was very upset at me. So
don't worry. We had a very awkward drive home with me having to say sorry for debating her and making her cry in the car. It is not good. And it's asking, yeah, she was fine. She's okay. All right. She sucked it up.
To be clear, these are like funny stories in retrospect, but they are not funny at the time, and you guys should not try to like debate bro your significant other. Like if you're going to get into big arguments about politics, that often it might be a good idea to not be with that person unless you guys have a way to get around those topics specifically. But that's a different.
Yeah, if that's something that you guys could just argue on, and that's fine. Like then that's okay. But sometimes it's not great. Sometimes it's better to listen, and listening and being compassionate is more rational than instantly jumping to like, oh, like I gotta start to debate this person for this and that. Sometimes just listening to the person and going a different route is the more rational thing. But once again, sometimes our emotional mind hijacks the rational mind, and it leads us to do things that we definitely should not. I mean, think of like a drug addict. Okay, we're gonna talk about a drug addict. Some of you guys have drug addicts that you know. Some of you guys are drug addicts, or you're addicted to something. All right, you're addicted to something, you've done something wrong, and you rationalize it in your head. The thing is, you talk to someone like this, or you can think about sometimes that you've been talked about some of these things, and what happens. All right, you bring something up to someone and they're like, oh, you know, everything that I'm doing is fine. It's okay. Like, it's not that big of a deal. You hear this a lot of the times. It's not that serious. Oh, it's like this and that led me here. And that's why I'm going this route. That's why this is happening. And because they're not arguing from just straight rationality. What they're doing is arguing they're arguing with the rational mind, but with emotion at the driving seat. And you cannot reach that person. It's impossible to reach that person. Impossible. And this is the theory I posit with like people like MGTOW. They position themselves as so incredibly big brain. You cannot reach this person. They're not arguing with just their rational mind. The emotion is behind it. The pain, the hurt, the idea that they're like better. They don't want to accept something about themselves. They're running from something, right? And that's when the emotional mind takes over, because it doesn't just activate for the memes. It activates to protect you. There's a reason why it's called a defense mechanism. It's there to defend you. What is that? Only you can answer that question. So you cannot reach someone like this until you get them to understand that there is a possibility that they can be wrong. If their idea of themselves in the world is so airtight and ironclad, there is no argument on this earth. They have a superhuman, like a quantum computer brain up between their ears, that there is no possible way that they could be wrong. How are you going to reach that person? You just can't. And the emotion that we have, that we feel, is not based in pure rationality. It's based in how we feel. And how we feel is a fact. That's a fact about the world. But it may not correspond to the perceivable world. So you have to get someone to understand that they can be wrong, to understand, to introspect a little bit before you can reach this person in any sort of argument, or else you are screwed. That there's nothing that can get through that mind, because it has a perfect shield around it. And no one believes that they are truly wrong, right? I think about this, and you can tell me what you think, Son. I don't think that people go, like I said, like people say that this person or that person on the political aisle is just fucking evil. I don't think that people go out into the world like a cartoon movie villain and just like rubbing their hands together like, how will I destroy the world today? Most people have a rhyme and a reason for things that they do. They understand what they're doing, and they're like giving like, they're trading something. They think something is like better than another thing. They're not just hurting people for fun. They think there's a goal to it. Even people like Adolf Hitler, right? Even he didn't do what he did because he thinks that he was just evil and he wanted to do evil. He had a rationalization for it.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree. I think that most people are like that. I think that there are some people that realize that most people would think that they're completely evil, and so they hide what they believe. And so to us, it makes us think that they're doing it just for evil reasons, but they're hiding it because they know that people will get mad at them. Most people think that they're right, and it has nothing to do with just like wanting to be evil. There's very few people outside of like sociopathy or some sort of like antisocial personality disorder that would lead someone to be like that, you know? Yeah, most people just think that they're right and everybody else is wrong, and people need to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They just gotta deal with it. Gotta suck it up, Buttercup. And so here's what I think. Here's my hypothesis about the MGTOW people. Okay, is that they're experiencing something that a lot of psychologists call alexithymia. So alexithymia is a personality trait. It's subclinical, so it's not something that you can be diagnosed with. It's just a personality trait. Alexithymia is a personality trait characterized by a subclinical inability to identify and describe emotions, but not to other people, to yourself. It's really interesting because alexithymia and alexithymian arguments stem from the inability to understand your emotions, let alone be able to explain them to yourself. You don't understand what you're feeling. You can be upset, you can be angry, you can be scared, you can be ashamed, you can be all of these things, but you don't know what that is. Maybe it's because of something that happened in your past. Maybe it's because you're running from something in your emotional mind. Hijacking your rational mind protects you from understanding that. But alexithymian argument pops up from a lot of these things. And a lot of these people who express like alexithymia or engage in a lot of alexithymian arguments, once again, it's subclinical. It's something that everybody can experience. It's like a depressive episode. It's like experiencing things like anxiety. You don't have anxiety, like clinical anxiety, but everyone experienced some form of anxiety at some point in time. That's more like what alexithymia basically is. This person, what they found is that this person does not have no emotion. This person feels like they're not very emotional, especially when they're making arguments. But it's not because they have no emotion. It's because that their brain has taught themselves to disregard and turn down the feelings of emotion to themselves as a protective measure instead of actually understanding and being there. So it can be a lot of people talk about this when it comes to like a tornado. Okay, sometimes I'm not sure if you guys live anywhere where tornadoes are. Have you seen a tornado before?
I've actually lived through a tornado when I was like very, very young.
Oh, how was that?
Very loud.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying, you know, just like the wishing.
Annoying is one word for it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it's bothersome. It's irritating if you think about it.
It's so fucking, man, it's so fucking irritating when your entire house gets blown away by an F5 tornado.
Yeah, it's just lame.
That's not what happened to me.
Yeah.
The tornado jumped over our house, but
cringe.
Yeah.
Yeah, giga cringe is what the kids like to say these days.
Sorry, derailed a little bit there. Go ahead.
No, it's fine. I wanted to ask you about that because I didn't know about that. But a lot of people compare it to a tornado. I would like to compare it to a tornado. Sometimes if anybody has lived through a tornado or you've heard people talk about a tornado, basically what happens is that sometimes you wonder what's happening with the tornado. Twisters, tornadoes, whatever you want to call them, don't typically just stand there and twiddle their dick. Typically they're moving. Here's the thing, and it's kind of yeah, they're moving and they're moving fast. And here's the thing. There are people who experience that they see a tornado and it doesn't look like it's moving. It's just standing there, just doing it, just vibing, you know? Tornadoes over there just kind of vibing, you know? Does that mean that the tornado isn't moving? Typically what happens is that if you don't see it moving left or right, you don't see it like going away, the tornado isn't not moving. It's coming towards you. It's moving towards you, and typically very fast. And that's kind of like when it comes to their emotions. They don't feel it. They don't feel it moving. They don't feel it bubbling up. They don't feel it getting overboard. Does that mean the emotions are gone? Can you turn off your emotional part of your brain? No. You turn down the amplitude. You turn down the feeling. But that doesn't mean that the emotions are gone. Typically, instead of not being there, if you don't feel them, they're running the show. Because if you're not sure of what's going on, lots of times, once again, it can hijack the rational mind. If it's not there, it's not gone. It's controlling. It's running the show and controlling you. And it's just active on go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, as a very quick anecdote that because I do debates all the time and I argue with people in very, very contentious settings. I've started doing this thing because I would realize that I would get like pretty irritated with people, especially if they were being pretty obtuse about something or obviously lying or pretending that they knew something that they didn't, and that irritates the fuck out of me. I have a very specific yellow little sticky note on the computer, whatever the note app thing is, and I have a couple of reminders, and the first one on there for every single debate that I do now is stay chill, right? Because as I type down notes about the things that they're saying, it's like at the very top in bold, underlined, italicized, stay chill, because otherwise, I'm going to get super emotional and get like pretty angry at people, and then while that's very entertaining for people, it also leads to me
looking bad, and sometimes it can lead you to poor arguments. And this is not to say that being emotional will never lead you to be irrational. That's not the case, because sometimes having your emotions spill over like that can be a sense of like two things: either you're very emotional and you are arguing rationally, or you're very emotional and it's clouding your mind. These can be two different things, but there's also like that hidden third one where you are very emotional but you don't know. There's actually some research on this, and you can see it in there. And this Google Doc will be open for everyone once this is done, and so you guys can follow along with some of the things that we're saying and where the sources that I get this from. But there was a study that was done on page 11, number 3, inhibition of emotional responses. By studying extinction, researchers have made substantial progress in understanding the sociological and neural mechanisms underlying the inhibition of conditioned fear responses. Your brain has taught yourself to not feel fear in that way. But a lot of the times, even if you don't feel it, it can be active on like on a neural level. It can be running things, and it can be active on a physiological level, where a lot of people who don't show that they're scared, they have a lot of bodily functions that tell that they're scared. So their heart will start like pounding, or they'll start sweating a lot more, but they don't feel it. They just don't feel it. And this is where we get to, and we know that this happens because we have a word for it, and we've said it already: rationalizations. You rationalize those things to yourself. You come up with, so we already understand that being rationalizing does not mean that you are being rational. Coming up with a ration, there's a reason for something, doesn't mean that that's correct, doesn't mean that it's right. When you try and inhibit your emotions, they can activate sometimes, and try to control that. Once again, you can't just turn off the emotional part of your brain. And when you try to touch it, sometimes it activates and latches on, and it starts to run the show when you don't even know it. And then you start to make excuses. You start to reject even just rational thought. And the less you feel, the more it's usually in control. If you don't feel any emotion, typically, once again, it means it's running the show. It's not just gone. Things like cognitive dissonance, projection, denial, and other defense mechanisms are used to defend against things in your head. What are those things? For a lot of people who think that emotion is a negative trait, especially when it comes to arguing your positions, a lot of the things your mind is trying to protect yourself is emotion itself, which is what's even running that thought process to begin with. You could be running from things like pain, sadness, grief, loss, shame, your own personal problems, societal problems, fear, your own personal failures. These things. What? Oh, sorry. Wait a second. Whoops. Sorry.
Stream dip?
Stream dipped a little bit. Lost a couple of frames. Oh my gosh. Sorry about that, everyone. Ooh. Oh no. Wait one moment. No, the derailing has begun. No, it's all over. Because my chat's reloading. Oh my gosh. Oh. Hey, guys. I'm still here, right? You can still hear me?
I can still hear you, yeah, 100%.
Whoa, it looks like the internet just died for a moment. Sorry about that, everyone. But if I see chat still going, I'll have to pull it up on another tab. Sorry about that. We should be able to be back sometime soon. But as long as you guys can still hear me, we can keep going. These rationalizations start to fill in the blank of where logic in your head should be. Those blanks are always still there. Those blanks can be filled by one of two things: actual logic or rationalizations to protect you. Because these things don't come out of nowhere. They're there to protect you. That's why they're called defense mechanisms. They defend. What do you think?
I mean, yeah. Again, you can usually tell when this is happening to other people, but never to yourself. Which is why being very conscious about the way that you act and the way that you respond to things, and recognizing the way you respond to things so that in the future you can catch that sort of thing from happening before it does happen, is a big part of growing up, and it's a really big part of, in my opinion, being like a good person.
It's essential.
When you are, especially if you're the kind of person that recognizes that you're like pretty emotional, or that you can have like angry outbursts, you can say or do things unintentionally that really, really harm other people, right? So just being aware of that and being recognized when you're going off the rails is a really good thing. And I've seen people who, in the past, I've seen them mature from like high school to now, who used to blow up at the slightest thing, and now they're a fully functioning adult, and it's because they've done a lot of introspection. It's because they've done a lot of they've done this kind of introspection where they not only understand themselves, but they've also kind of assigned value to the things that they do, right? And recognize when things are good and bad. Because some people will do the introspection and they just say that I'm right. It's not. You have to do the next step in that equation, which is not only do you do the introspection and say, well, this is the way that I am, you also have to take that next step and correct the bad actions, you know?
But sometimes it's not, you can't just stop at, this is who I am. Sometimes you have to go to, why am I this way? Like understanding like the core of why you are this way sometimes can be very good. Because lots of people just like accept it, just accept what's going on. Just they understand that, all right? But that can lead you to the blame game. So it's really easy to start blaming, okay? It's really, really easy to start just blaming. You see this with the MGTOW a lot, and you see this with other people of the Maniverse. They start blaming. What happens? What, something goes wrong? Who is it? Blame. Who gets blamed? Women, society, the simps, everyone, us, other people in men's rights who don't understand what's going on. They get blamed. The blame game just starts going because it's everyone except for you. It's everyone except for you. It's very easy to start blaming just the universe for the things that are happening. But if you never have any part in it, it's really easy to just accept those are just problems and it just goes away. Oh, why is this happening? Why did I fail this test? Oh, I mean, it was the neighbors who were like way too loud the other night. Why did our relationship fall apart? Because of society and people like letting women do whatever they want. Oh, why can I never find a good girlfriend? Because of all these laws and the government making it so that men can't beat their wives. Just so you know, that's another thing in there that the MGTOW are talking about. They wrote an entire essay about why he thought that we are the way they are. The turning point for the destruction of Western civilization was the government banning you being able to beat your wife. And then once that happened, then the women were able to run amok because the only thing keeping them in line were the beatings by their husbands. And then finally they were free from that and they could run along and destroy the world or something along those lines. It's everyone. It's everyone except for you. And you even see this. And you even see this not only with them, you see this with other people. And, you know, we don't have to talk about anybody specifically, but you see this as well demonstrated in the, if you can't have me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. You don't deserve me of my best. It's basically the men's version of that. You could feel some things about it. You could feel like ashamed. You could feel scared. You can feel all of these things about why you feel the way that you do. But but you can come to grips with that. But if you don't do any more introspection, you're coming to grips with that is I'm perfect. You're wrong. And I'm not sure if you felt this way before, Eversond, but you hit up a girl, okay? And what does she do? She rejects you. And what does your mind go to? Sometimes you're like a little sad and then instantly, her fucking lost, that dumb bitch. She doesn't know what she walked away from. She doesn't understand. She'll never find someone as good as me. She'll never find a boyfriend as good as me. She walked away from the best thing that ever happened to her. It's her fault. And I'm perfect. I am perfect just the way I am. Is that always true? no. Typically, no. There's probably some.
Yeah.
You probably maybe even deserve to be turned down at that moment.
Yeah, and for me, I have an atypical dating experience, so that's something that I personally can't, not sympathize with, but identify with. But I did reference it earlier, where it not only when you're asking someone out, but also when you break up. I've rationalized many times the reasons why someone has broken up with me, and it's always their fault.
It's so easy. The whole reason this
so
fell
much
apart
easier
was
than
them.
blaming yourself. You have no fucking clue, guys. It's so much easier to have everybody else in the world be wrong and you always be right. But the unfortunate reality is, after my last breakup, I think that was the big shakeup for me, that I kind of realized that, oh, sometimes I'm the wrong one. And some of the things in between the like hurtful statements that were thrown my way during the breakup, there were some real things that I need to address about myself in order to be, like an adult or someone worthy of being in a relationship, so that I'm not, it's not a one-sided relationship, because it's very easy to fall into that sort of thing. For me, part of the criticisms that I wasn't really ever considering as valid from other people that I was dating, like I didn't really take care of myself. I wasn't
Stinky.
Yeah, well, I would shower. I'll give myself that. I wasn't literally stinky.
Yeah, but did you shower and then you put on the clothes that you just came out of?
I looked stinky. All right, the clothes looked stinky. All right. And so I had to learn how to take care of myself. I had to learn how to, be a fucking adult. And that's something that everyone's going to go through eventually, hopefully, right? And if you don't feel like you've gone through that sort of thing yet, it might do you well to do the introspection required there, because once you kind of realize that and you can recognize those qualities about yourself that are holding you back, maybe it's not just for being in a relationship. Maybe it's just how to progress yourself in your own life. For me, the not taking care of yourself, not always being late to shit, always doing this, always doing that, those are things that were also keeping me from, finishing school, right? And so now, after taking those and introspecting on them and recognizing that, those are things I need to work on. Now I can actually see myself on a path towards finishing school. Now I can actually see myself on a path towards being able to afford, like my full car payment, or an apartment, or this or that, or any of these other things. It was because I was pushing off blame onto literally everybody else, or systems, or any of these other things, instead of looking inwards and saying, you know what, I'm kind of being a fuck up here. I'm kind of being the asshole here, So that, I think that's something that everybody needs to recognize in themselves at one point or another,
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. And this is, once again, the rational mind being hijacked by emotion to get you there. Sometimes you have to be like, hey, maybe it's just not them. It's me. It's me who, and this is why why all this is happening. And the thing is, the emotional mind the emotional mind may hijack the rational mind, but it's still working through the rational mind. So your rational part of your brain doesn't necessarily lie. It's not really wrong. It's just very selective. Remember that. If you have a bunch of Skittles in front of you, okay, you dump a Skittle bag out on the table, and then imagine your rational mind picking up all the green ones, and then what do you hold in your hands? A bunch of green Skittles. Does that mean that the bag was completely full of Skittles? And you look at that and you're like, this bag is completely full of Skittles. What dumb shit. I can't believe this, that they only gave me free Skittles, like green Skittles. I can't believe, I don't even like green. You forget everything else on the table. Is it wrong that it had green Skittles in it? No. But you don't have a full picture. You're picking and choosing things to pull from to build a worldview out of that. And to think of that, you can think like, she dumped me. It's her fault. It's her loss. But I see a lot of people who say things like that, and even you people who are listening right now, you may hear this and you go, "Oh, sick. Fuck, I'm free, dude." Because I just blame everything on myself. It's just me. It's just me. Everything is my fault and I ruin everything. Once again, remember, that's your emotional mind hijacking your rational mind. Still, even then, still, because you're being selective again. Not everything is literally 100% your fault. What you do is you start picking and choosing things to build a worldview, because your rational mind doesn't lie. It's selective, and it doesn't select things at random. It selects things for how you already feel about yourself. So this can lead you to do a lot of things. It can lead you to be in toxic relationships. Can you imagine that? You see a lot of people in like MGTOW, you see a lot of incels, you see a lot of people, they have very, very low expectations of themselves. How do you think that manifests when they were looking for relationships? That manifests typically in a way that makes them dodge red flags, completely forget about them, do things like go for people that they shouldn't, that they don't match with, that they shouldn't be with, go with people who they know have a bad history, but they're okay with that. Why? Because their emotional mind is running their rational mind, and it tells them that you need to forget about that, because this already proves what you already believe about yourself. If you don't think that you deserve a good relationship, do you think that you're going to be so picky and choosy about like the people that you're with? You go with the first thing that you get. And if it's bad, well, that already shows you, oh, I only deserve a bad relationship. I'm terrible. I deserve to be abused. I deserved for this to happen. I deserved for that to happen. I deserve for this to be all my fault. You hear this in like, I don't want to get too dark, but like people who maybe like suicidal, have suicidal tendencies, go through like depressive episodes. What do you hear from them? You hear it's so irrational. Everything is their fault. Things that they weren't even a part of, it's their fault. People like dying, people losing things. They think like I had one interaction with this person and I destroyed their life because I looked on Facebook and they're homeless now. Like, is that your fault? No. But it will be their fault because they're picking and choosing selective things with their rational mind to build a worldview of things that they already believe about themselves. This is why understanding what you feel is crucial to becoming happier and more mindful, accepting that you can be irrational, accepting your fear, your shame, the hate, the self-hatred that you feel, running away from your problems, your personal shortcomings, these things, understanding that you could be fundamentally wrong in everything that you do is how you reach actually being able to fix a lot of your problems. And now I think that you should be able to take some responsibility in the things that you do, right? Don't make everything literally 100% your fault, but accept some responsibility for the things that you had control over. If you're always falling into bad relationships, like I would imagine a lot of these like MGTOW or incels do, think about that. What's the common thread there? What's the common denominator to all of those things that brought you to that point? When you go to a therapist and you talk about how you've been wronged by this person and that person, how everyone's mean and how this is going on, you're getting screwed over by these people, what's leading you to dodge a lot of those red flags that show up in those people to bring you to that point? The therapist isn't going to sit there while you like shit on like Sarah for being so mean to you and fucking your best friend. I'm sorry. They're going to talk about you, what led you to trust that person and to begin with. You have to understand that you bring yourself to some situations, and if you don't, you're going to lead yourself into bad places all the time.
Even at that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and even at that, sometimes it's not even that you lead yourself into situations where other people are fucking you over. Sometimes it is you who is causing the situation that is fucking you over, right? Because yeah, you might have put yourself in a situation where you trusted Sarah so much that you didn't recognize the signs of her fucking your best friend or whatever, right? But at the same time, it's not like you are. It's just the decisions that lead you to them cheating or like Let me rephrase that. It's not just you putting yourself in a position where you don't recognize someone for who they are. It's also like actions that you take that might lead other people to do certain things, or there might be some reason why they are too scared to break up with you and end up sleeping up with someone else, and that leads to y'all breaking up, right? Because there are some girls that are too scared to break up with their boyfriends because they're scared of
Like some
you know,
retribution.
some kind of retribution or retaliation, you know. So like being able to recognize those things in yourself, because again, like the emotions that you recognize are selective from your rational mind. Being able to do that one step away, where okay, so I recognize that I feel this way. Why is it that I feel this way, right? And why is it that why is it that I am seeing that part immediately first and not this side of it, you know? These are things that you have to be able to recognize in those situations. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. So these, and then it builds you to get, it builds you to have like a confirmation bias already. So when you talk about these things, then you go, wow, listen, look at all of these experiences that I've had to confirm my bias, right? And then you start to play those biases on other people. How a lot of times though, I remember listening to the MGTOW talk about how, guy gets a girlfriend, then leaves MGTOW. What do they do after that? They start to make a story about how she's cheated on him already, how they're already broken up, how she's done this and that and sapped their resources and waiting to get with another person. All of that's happening already. You could have low self-worth and you could be pushing off a lot of blame onto society, capitalism, onto like the women, onto their simps, like all of these things. But it's never them. It's never the person. It's always everyone else. Because listen, you listen to a lot of these people like incels, people like MGTOW, pickup artists. They live in pain, right? These people live in absolute agony. At all points in time, they cry themselves to sleep every single night. And you sit there and you're like, man, have you ever like read something from these people? And you're like, man, your life sucks.
It's truly some of the most fucking depressing things. Reading the forums, I've done a deep dive just in my own off time because I would never go into those things on stream. But they talk about what's the acronym? For incels, it's lie down and rot. LDAR.
Yeah, lie down and rot.
Where they just think like that's the best thing that I could possibly do. You know, there's nothing else I can do. I'm never going to find a woman. They're the MGTOWs and the incels are just kind of two different sides of the same movement, where it's always a very strong reaction to rejection or from just negative interactions with women in general. Sometimes it's not even that leads them there, it's something else, and then they start listening to these people, you know. But the way that they talk and the way that sometimes they'll like coach each other on how to kill themselves, trigger warning about suicidality, but it is incredibly sad, and it would be nice, it's not excusing their behavior, but to have empathy on that level with them, so that we can understand why they act the way they do and why they say the things that they do, might help us help them, or help us give advice that might help them help themselves, you know.
So our brains love normality. So you know how your body has homeostasis, right? So your body naturally cools itself down, it naturally heats itself up to stay around like 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. Your brain has something basically the same. But oh my gosh, we flip places. You see that shit?
I just did.
You crazy, you're a madman. What happened?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, it's all falling apart now. Okay, whatever.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. It be that way sometimes. But our minds, I'm dizzy now. Yeah, everyone's fucking falling apart. Look what you've done. It's ruined. It's ruined. Wait, no, I can't even. No, I thought you could like drag it. No. Oh my gosh. Okay, whatever. No, it's not getting fixed. Whatever now. But so our brains have our own emotional homeostasis. So you can have really big anxiety episodes. You can have really big depressive episodes. Even people with like clinical anxiety or depression, what happens? They mellow out over time. They mellow out over time. Now they may not go you may not go completely at even. Those chemical imbalances are still there, but we always come back to some sort of homeostasis emotionally, because our brains love that. Now, what could that homeostasis be sometimes? Sometimes it can be pain. When we say that these people live in just absolute pain, they do, and they're comfortable with that because they've already experienced that pain. Why do they always look to justify that? Why do they always look to remain there, even when you open the door for them? Why does that happen? Because our brains love things that we've already experienced. We don't like change, even if the existence that we're already in is excruciating. So what happens is that they're used to this pain. They sit there and they're rotting. They're sitting and rotting. But that sitting and rotting is familiar to you more than anything else. So you can open the door, but they may not come out. Because they're scared of what could happen outside. You don't know if you can face that pain of talking to another girl and getting rejected. You don't know if you can face that pain of coming to grips with like your own shortcomings. You don't know if you can know that pain, or you don't know how to feel after you let go of letting things that you can't affect hurt you anymore because it's not all your fault anymore. If that's the case, then you just stay where you are. You stagnate. And stagnation is really horrible for people. And that stagnation is what leads them to build a lot of these bridges to defend themselves against other pain. You know this pain and you're used to it. And that pain that you already feel has already mellowed out. It may be to a really bad point, but it's already mellowed out in their head. So what you have to do is learn how to be okay with moving away from these sorts of things. It reminds me of this one allegory for what like hell is. If I remember correctly, how the allegory went, you guys may have heard it, is hell is like you are in a room with a bunch of other people and there are no mirrors and you're all like facing each other and you only get your own self-image from what other people see in you, what they tell you about yourself. You're not able to see yourself. You're not able to really introspect on yourself. Everything that you know about yourself is through the eyes of other people, and you all kind of hate each other. But you're sitting there and they're suffering. They're suffering. They're in incredible. You would think that you would want to jump out of that hole as soon as possible. But the allegory goes, the door opens. There's one door in the room. The door opens and none of them leave. They still sit there. It's exactly the same thing as this with these like MGTOW and these incels. They still sit there. They understand what this feels like. They built a community around what this feels like. They didn't want to escape what this feels like because they don't know what's out there. What can be outside that door? Is it worse than this? I already know this. I've already survived this. What's out there? Who knows?
The suffering that you know is better than the suffering that you don't know.
Mm-hmm. So you have to understand what draws you to these feelings, what draws you to these thoughts. And I would once again say that you need to understand how you feel. Do some introspection, not only what you feel, but why you feel that way, and be able to wrap it around into better understanding. Or else you could definitely end up like these people. A lot of us, there's not too much difference between, and I remember this from a long time ago, where we were studying like the Nazis, right? And the scariest thing that we found out about the Nazis and Nazi soldiers who did all of these crimes wasn't that they were like uniquely demented or uniquely had this specific brain thing that made them different. The scariest thing we found out is that they're just like us. There's no real difference between you, an incel, a MGTOW, a pickup artist. There's nothing fundamentally different about you than as humans. You're the same. But the emotion hijacking the rational mind can lead you into different directions. It just led them here. So to get a person out of this, if you've experienced this, or to get yourself out of this, is to understand what you're feeling, to let yourself out of that mind prison, to be able to understand your emotions, do some introspection. If you need a friend to do it, if you need a therapist to do it, please do that. I know me or you, Son, you probably have some sections in your Discord where you guys can talk about some problems. If you have someone that you trust, go into like a DM with them or like a call, or someone that you know. Have them let out some things. Understand that your emotions are not evil. They are you. And that's not something that you can escape or you can run from. And that's what I think personally leads a lot of these MGTOW to be where they are. That enlightenment is nothing but allowing, that enlightenment is nothing but them turning down the feelings on their emotions, the amplification on their emotions, and finally giving their emotions full reign over their rational mind to do whatever they please.
I think that I think that there's something to be said for your emotions. I think that there is a separation of, especially once you start down the path of recognizing what your emotions are, which ones are negative, and things like that. There's a point where you start to have the immediate emotional response, and then you recognize it, right? And I think that I would disagree with you that the emotions are just you. I think that there's different parts of you, and there's like your initial like visceral reaction to
I think,
something that
well,
someone
it's not
says.
like all of you, but it's part of
Right.
you.
Yeah, it is part
it's
of
trying,
you,
it's
right?
trying
And
to,
that's fine.
yeah, that's fine. It's trying to get rid of that, like a part of you. That like complete elimination of that part of you is what gives it the power to hide and hijack your rational mind.
Yeah, and I think that there is a point where you start recognizing the negative emotions that you have, or the negative outbursts, and you recognize them as they're happening, or before they happen, and your rational mind, or that little voice in your head, goes off, and you can recognize it either after it happens or before it happens, right? And I think that is the part of you that's the mature part of you, or the part of you that you're cultivating, right? So let's say that outside of like a relationship kind of example, let's say that you used to be a super big alt-righter, right? And you used to say like do a whole bunch of like racist jokes, or had a bunch of racist beliefs. I think that there is a part of you that once you start getting out of those circles, once you start getting out of those groups, you'll still have the like visceral reaction of some sort of like racist belief, but then that voice will go off in your head and like, actually, that's not the right thing to do, right? And I think that is the part of you that you should focus on and try and cultivate.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
And so like in a relationship, say you used to be like pretty angry outburst, or maybe you would kind of shut down, right? And be like very quiet or something like that, and just take the abuse, or like whatever your individual experience is, and you start recognizing those things, right? When you have those responses, and then you hear the voice in your head saying, "Oh no, I probably shouldn't be so angry at this," right? So what, they left the cap off of the milk and then put it back into the refrigerator, right? I shouldn't yell at them about this,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's when you have that thought in your head, even if it's like too late, cultivate that, and that's what you should be going for.
Absolutely. And while I don't think, and while we don't, for me, I don't think humans are necessarily irrational creatures. I think men sometimes can be uniquely situated to fall into these traps more than women. It's just like kind of how we're conditioned to not really understand and process our emotions like women do. Women don't feel more emotions than men. Typically, how researchers have described it is that women feel like the amplification on those emotions are a little bit different. But my bad, are like stronger. So they don't feel like more they're not like those like mantises with the crazy those sea mantises. You know what I'm talking about? What the fuck is it called? Like the rainbow mantis with the crazy eyes. It has the hammer. You know what I mean?
I have no clue what the fuck you're talking. It sounds like a Mario character.
The mantis shrimp. Yeah, they're not like mantis shrimps who can see like UV light and like crazy and in like crazy colors. They're not like cuttlefish who can see like colors that humans can. That's not true. But they're but typically like the emotions are turned up differently, and women tend to deal with their emotions separately because of like friend groups. And the next episode is going to be more on friends and how to make friends. Women, when they feel like loss or grief, what they typically do is sink into their friend groups and process their emotions, while guys tend to get busy and not process those emotions. That's not how we've been conditioned to deal with our emotions. So we're more susceptible to falling into this trap of thinking that we're not emotional, of thinking that we're running from our emotions, and thinking that we've turned off that part of the brain, when in all actuality we've, like, you know, Jesus take the wheel with it, and now the emotion is sitting in our lap in the driver's seat, and running the show for us, where we didn't even know it. And that is what I think is running a lot of these guys and a lot of this manosphere. We'll talk about more of that in another episode, but I think it's about time to get to questions. What do you think?
I think that questions sound lovely.
Lovely, beautiful. Here's one question. How important is it to you to never go for a girl you don't find attractive? Also, obligations of nature that are predetermined by your gender, aka the duty to choose an appropriate male and define what you find attractive in the opposite sex.
Okay, I'm going to need the list of questions again, because I need to see the exact wording of that. What was it? That was confusing. What is the duty to find a woman?
Let's tackle the first part.
Yeah.
How important is it to you to never go for a girl you don't find attractive?
I don't think that it's a bad thing to try to go for people that you find attractive. I don't think that that's bad in any way, shape, or form. You shouldn't. I think that going out of your way to find someone that you don't find attractive in order to date is just going to make you miserable and that person miserable when they find out that's why you chose them to go after, you know?
Yeah, it's like sometimes when I get choose just for being black, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's just like probably an uncomfortable situation for them as well. Just, you know, just kind of vibing if you find, and a lot of times, like, I don't know. I know that I have an atypical dating experience. Most of the people that I ended up dating, I knew for a while before actually dating them, right? And you generally find someone more attractive when you know them better.
Mm-hmm.
So that never has been an issue with me. So, but just like as general advice, I would probably just go for people that you like find attractive and that you vibe well with.
Yeah,
right?
I think you need to do like a little bit of introspection of why you may not think that someone may be attractive. Now that if you like run around people who say that this groups of people aren't attractive, or this group of people have been like shit on, and that's why you may think that they're not attractive, and not you just generally just don't find them attractive. That's fine. I don't think you should be dating someone that you don't find attractive, but I think it's good to do like a little bit of introspection. You may like not think that this person or those types of people are not attractive for not great reasons, and not just that you're just not attracted to them.
Yeah, like you were saying, like there are some people that will say, "I'll never date a black chick," and I think that they're fucking lying, because you could point out you know, a black chick that has all of the same features that you know, a white girl or a Hispanic girl has, except for their skin is a darker tone, and they would be like, you know, yeah, I would go on a date with that person, right? It's like, okay, so you wouldn't not go on a date with black people, so like why do you think that? Do some introspection and try and, you know, reformulate what you're saying there in a way that actually makes sense, you know?
So true, bestie.
And some people, hey, really quick, I'll even say this. Some people will say the same thing about trans people. Like, I will never date like a trans person, right? And they
like, go on a date with like Blair White. Not that she's a good person, but like the looks.
Yeah, and like there are trans people out there. They're fucking 10 out of 10s, right?
Oh, it's absolutely.
Like, okay, like if you're saying sure that like I'll never date a trans person because like I personally want to have kids, that's one thing. But saying I'll never date a trans person because of X, Y, Z reason, you probably don't actually believe those reasons. And it takes more introspection to figure out why you're actually saying that thing.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, there are a lot of trans girls. They put a whole lot more work into their feminine appearances than some cis women do. I think a lot of the TERFs are just molding because some trans girls be cute as fuck and they can't live up. They don't put in the work. Okay, they don't put in the work. Those girls be cute. This is a fact. These are factual things, scientifically proven. Actually, here's a question, and this is a private question. This is a super secret question. Okay. Like I said, if you're watching this and you want to submit a question, you could always do that. You can go to, I do a post on my YouTube a day before this goes live. And I also post on Twitter. If you want your question asked, you could always ask under those posts, or you can DM me or Sond, Discord or Twitter for more anonymity, because I know some questions are a little bit embarrassing to ask. You don't want to see the squad asking you about like dating questions. But if you want your question answered, don't worry about it, okay? You get full anonymity, just like this person will with their question. Hey, I wanted to submit this question to the podcast. Since I became an adult, I found making friends so much harder and was wondering where you find your social spaces and how you take advantage of them to make connections. This this may be hit a little bit harder since being an my bad. This may have hit me a bit harder since being an extrovert in quarantine ain't fun.
Sorry, I had to deal with something in my chat. Can you repeat the question? I'm so sorry.
Sure, no problem. After becoming an adult, it's been making friends has been so much harder. Wondering how you utilize social spaces and take advantage and make connections, because this person is also an extrovert in quarantine.
So one of the things that and I've talked to my girlfriend recently about this. I am not as good at making friends as people would think that I am. I'm pretty. It's pretty easy to talk to me in general usually, but I just don't. I didn't know where to go out and find people. Right. One thing that my girlfriend, she is very good at making friends. Right. So I've learned some stuff from her. Basically, the best thing to do really is to find some club that is going on, or if you're like a nerd and you like to go to and you like to play like Magic the Gathering, or you like to play Dungeons and Dragons, shit like that, you can usually find a group in your area or a comic shop or something like that you can go to, and people there love making friends, and you can usually find a social club that way. You could if you join if you're into like working out or into like more sportsy stuff, you could join a gym, and there's usually classes there, and people will have social events afterwards and invite everyone to go out and eat or drink afterwards. So that's always a thing you can do. You can go to things like conventions, like anime conventions or Comic-Cons or things like that. These are all great ways to meet and find new people. There's also apps that if you're into the more tech side of finding people, like Bumble BFF, some people use that and have. I think my girlfriend's whole friend group was made through Bumble BFF, and she's
kind of sick.
And they're all like really close now, and they just like go out and they drink and they have fun and they have parties and Twilight gatherings.
Your girlfriend's a very social butterfly.
She's incredibly extroverted.
You ever a little jealous that she just talks to someone and then she just fixes them. She's like, I can fix them, and they instantly become her. She's like the Pied Piper.
She is one of the most social people that I've ever met in my entire life, and I don't know how to keep up with her on that one. I like talking to people on the internet. I like my very small group of friends, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm content with that. But she's not. She knows how to find friends all over the place. Hey, you know what? And I'll even say this: going to bars and just like talking to people. Like if there's a bar or a club. Personally, there's this like one club that I really like in Houston that it is kind of what's the word? Kind of like a dive bar type thing, right? And outside, after people get exhausted dancing inside, they'll go onto this patio outside and just smoke and drink and chat. And people, you would be surprised how willing and happy people are to have some stranger just like walk up, sit down with them, and start a chat.
Oh yeah, sometimes
especially if you're an extrovert.
The first step is sometimes always the hardest. Also, City Cat, I got you. Okay, I see the people in chat jumping on you. You are correct. You're just correct. Extroverts in quarantine be acting like an oppressed class. So they want to be added they want to be added to the 1964 Civil Rights Act, dude. I freaking swear. I swear. It's like pretty people when they finally have to talk to someone and have a personality. They're just like, I don't know how you people do it. I don't know how you uggos do it. Like like you got through life without having to have a personality, okay? Now you get to live how us introverts do. Get in your damn shell, all right? Get back in there. Get in there. Now you get to sit in your room just like we do. All right. Now you get to know what it tastes like. I hope you enjoy it, weirdo. Because like the whole world is like positioned around freaking extroverts, man. Like, I'm sorry. When I go into a new class, back when I was in high school, you had to go into the new classroom. You remember that when you're like, we're going to go around the room and we're going to tell something about ourselves. No, that is introvert phobic
ever. Yep, that is the worst thing ever. It's terrible.
And then the extroverts all raise, we're in school, and then we have to present a project, and then the one extrovert in your thing raises their hand first. I want to go first, teacher. You just want to, dude. The whole world is surrounded, is controlled by extroverts. All right, get back in your damn shell. I want you to stay in there. You can feel like we do. All right, put on the another season of Grey's Anatomy, you dumb bitch, and sit in there. All right, but. But when it comes to making friends, there's a little formula that you can do, okay? And we'll get into this in more depth on the next episode. A little formula you can do, okay? For men, for a lot of guys, making friendships are really difficult because making deep friendships are about emotion. We talk about this a lot. Men aren't typically conditioned to dive into or share their emotions a lot. So vulnerability multiplied by time spent equals a depth of a friendship. You being more emotionally vulnerable with that person, being able to talk about a person, about sensitive topics or issues, trusting a person, that is really big for fomenting a very deep friendship. You can meet someone and be like, oh, we're friends, but you don't get a deep friendship that you call. That's the guy you call. If you need some help, these are the dudes that you call to get somewhere. You don't get there until you become vulnerable with that person. Being able to just be vulnerable with someone is a really big thing to build a stronger relationship. Show up, make plans, and show up. Actually get there, even if you don't want to. Even if you're like, I don't want to go anywhere today. I don't want to do anything today. Show up. If they invite you to something, show up. Unless it's like really something you really don't want to do, but go there. You get a lot of experiences. You spend more time, and that's something that you may not get a lot of.
Really quick, and also you said, oh Lord, I'm losing it. What was it?
Vulnerable. Be vulnerable.
Vulnerable. Yes, that's exactly. Not only be vulnerable, but make them aware that they can be vulnerable with you, because otherwise they're just going to put up the macho thing, you know? Like, I've made a lot of guy friends that probably would never talk to me about anything except for how angry they are about politics or about like football or about D&D, right? But if they are going through like a hard time, just ask them like, hey man, you doing all right? I know you just like broke up with your girlfriend, or I know that shit's been kind of rough for you, right? Being able to let them know and put them on notice that, you know, you can talk to me about these things. It's fine. Like, it's like, I'm chill. I'm not going to sit here and judge you, you know? That's one big step in that side of the equation, you know?
Yeah. And also, this isn't like just be yourself, bro. Sometimes the person that you are isn't a very good person. Sometimes you're a bad person. Sometimes you have a lot of problems. Okay, some of you guys in here, you got a lot of fucking problems. All right, you shouldn't always just like be yourself if you're not confident in yourself and you're not sure that you're like that you're like a good person. Sometimes that can be like, once again, you can be clouding your mind with your emotional mind, hijacking your rational mind to make up rationalizations for you being awful. But they're, you know, maybe you're messy, maybe you're stinky, maybe you didn't brush your teeth today, maybe you're like, maybe you got a lot of problems, you know. Sometimes you got a lot of problems. Sometimes you shouldn't just like be there. Maybe you fly off the handle a lot. Sometimes learning how to fix some problems within you, but that isn't like necessarily not being yourself. That's more of learning how to fix problems that you have. That's a very different thing than just never ever be yourself. That's very different. You need to understand that. So I think like, get vulnerable, be yourself, put yourself out there. The same advice that we give for like talking to a girl Like you learn, you can use the same thing for talking to a guy. You know, you walk up, you say, hey, you talk, you ask them questions about themselves. People love talking about themselves. And that's a really great way to get someone to open up to you.
That's the cheat code to having conversations. If you're an introvert and you don't know how to have a conversation with someone, just ask them questions about themselves. People love talking about themselves. People love being the center of attention. You make them the center of attention, they're going to love you too.
Yep. Yeah. Especially someone who doesn't really want to be the center of attention too much. If you guide them, if you like hold their hand, you're like, come on, bud, tell me more. Wow, that's cool. Tell me more. Huh, really interesting. You tie something about yourself in, and then you drop another question, and then you can let them go on, because then you can like tell them something about yourself. So it's not just them sharing, then you can share too. Ask them another question, and then they can roll on. This is something that comes into small talk. We're going to be talking about how to dissect, and you can be a god of small talk. That's the next episode, and that's why you should watch. But yeah, that's I think that's the advice that I'd give for when it comes to, you know, just, you know, making friends. We love making friends. It's good to have a bunch of friends. Well, you don't always need like a bunch of friends, but gaining more friends and being more social with people, that's really great. Dirty talk. You shouldn't really be dirty talking your friend too much. Well, I mean, unless that's like your thing, you know. I have women friends, and they call me daddy sometimes, but that's mainly to make me uncomfortable, because we're friends, you know. I call them a stinky cootie loser, and she says that I'll never get a girlfriend. And I'm a horrible human being, you know. Just it's give and take. It's give and take. Someone asked, Louis, you asked, like, what is Jordan Peterson's worst advice when it comes to like men or something, his most harmful piece of advice? I think, Daddy Shark Doo-doo, you can stop. I think the worst piece of advice is saying that like men and women are built different. We're not built different. We're the same human being. All right. Women, they're just like you. They're not this special creature, human being that you'll never be able to understand. They're just like you. All right. They're people. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, no, I was addressing something in chat. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. Women are people.
Debatable. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, no. Throwing some meat to the
masculinity. Positive masculinity.
Positive. So positive.
Let me see here. Did you ask me a question just now? Sorry.
Oh, sure. Like, what is Jordan Peterson's most harmful piece of men's advice?
I don't follow Jordan Peterson that closely. I couldn't give you a specific thing. In general, you could probably get a lot out of Jordan Peterson. A lot of people have.
I cleaned my room all because of him. That's the only reason my room is clean.
I mean, it's not bad advice. I feel a lot better.
It's honestly not.
I have ADHD and I don't clean my room, and my mind glazes over all of the mess, right? And I just go to the bed and fall asleep there, and then I wake up and I leave the bedroom, and I never use the bedroom, right? So I never notice if my room is dirty, but I feel better when it's clean, right? So you'll get something out of it if you clean your room. So that's actually good advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think building walls between the genders to make us seem like so different from each other is builds a lot of harmful ideas about like interacting and thinking that there are like some cheat codes or some buttons that you could press to make them different because you think you're so complex, but they're like this different sort of complex. They're like a clock, you know. You got to be like a clocksmith to go in there, and you got to defuse the bomb. You got to do this and that. It doesn't typically work out like that. Come on, they're people too. Let's do one more question. I have both unless you had like a hidden question, because I like to get the people who
I have one that might be slightly too. It's more politics related than men's advice, so
sure, we can hold it
if you want to. Yeah, we can hold it until after the podcast and keep this relatively, you know.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, it's like an off podcast question.
You're fine. Yeah. I have both a sister and a girlfriend who are both incredibly strong women. I feel like this may be a question more up your alley. I'm terrified that one day, well, maybe not this part, but you know, we're vulnerable here. I'm terrified that one day they're gonna think I'm inadequate and will leave me forever. I don't want to lose either and I think it's stupid to think about. But how do I get over that?
You go first.
Me go first? Okay. Here,
Yeah.
let me. I want to send you the question so you can look at it, so you can ponder. Okay.
Yeah, I was copy and pasting the question that they're wanting to ask. So,
Okay. I feel like a lot of this comes from the idea that just because someone's strong, that being strong sometimes is it is a zero sum game. So you can think that one person is strong in the relationship, the other person has to be weak. I feel like a lot of this kind of comes, a lot of this, that idea can also boil over in the idea that, like, especially in like gay relationships or someone, they're like, there's like two guys and they're like, okay, but which one is the girl of the relationship? You know, like that's how they try to understand it through that framework. Just because someone is strong doesn't mean that someone is weak. You can also be a strong person, and just because they're all like incredibly strong does not mean that they think that you're inadequate or they're looking for someone that strong. And you could be downplaying your own abilities or what they're looking for. They may not be looking for someone who they may not be looking for someone who they can that they see a mirror in that quality specifically. There are other things that they could love about you, and it may not be like you being so incredibly like big and strong, whether that be like emotionally or mentally or physically. They may not be looking for that. I feel like sometimes we think that we have to mirror our partners, but I think a lot of the times what we really want to be looking for are complementary features in each other, and not the same features. We're not looking for a mirror, you know. We're looking for colors that work together, like people that work together. So if you work with that person very well already, and she's already your girlfriend, she probably likes you. She's probably not going to be like, oh, this guy's just such a fucking loser. If she was such a strong girl when you met her, and you were able to wrangle that girl and make her your girlfriend, she's probably not just gonna leave you because she thinks that you're weak now or something. She probably loves you for who you are. And it's important to understand that. And this also, once again, could play into what we talked about today. I really think his emotion of being scared and being ashamed of who he is, being fearful about what could happen. Those emotions are running the show of the rational mind, and he's coming up with a lot of ideas that could mean that could come up with a lot of ideas to justify why he feels that way, to rationalize why he feels that way. When in all actuality, you're completely it's just fucking irrational, dude. If she breaks up with you, or something happens in the relationship, it's probably not going to be that. It's probably going to be something else. Like she found one too many cum socks. Okay, when you can use your cum sock like a boomerang, because it's just so hard, you know, and that's, you know, one too many times left in her panty drawer, dude. You just gotta you gotta calm that stuff down. I think that's more reasonable. So I think like understanding why you feel that way, reconciling that, and understanding your emotions there, like really take a moment and be like, hey, why do I feel this way? Where are these emotions coming from? What is it in myself that makes me think that I'm so inadequate? And sometimes maybe talk to her about that. You know what? I think bring a lot of things to your partner is really good. It doesn't have to be perfectly like, oh, here's this perfect thing. Just give her like a fucking mess. If you're a mess, give her that mess. She's dating a mess. She's probably okay with that mess. All right. She can be a mess too. Even though she's strong, she can be a mess too. Give her that mess and you guys can work on that together. Or you can just be like, or she can just be like, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm not going to leave you. You can reassure you in that way.
Also, listen, I date exclusively strong women because I hate weakness because the weak will be purged. Mm-hmm. No, but it's just always been that people with very strong personalities, very sometimes belligerent personalities, those are the ones that are most attractive to me. So as someone that has dated and is dating, strong women, they'll fucking tell you if you're doing something that's going to make them break up with you.
They're not scared of speaking up. They use their voice. If they're that strong, they'll use their voice and they'll tell you. It won't be a surprise.
It won't be a surprise, and you'll have like months of warning, right? And this is like I said before, the things that I had to start introspecting about is because the very strong woman that I was dating before was telling me all the time that there were things that I needed to fix about myself that were legitimate things, and I would say, yeah, I'm going to fix that. I'm going to do better on this, and then I didn't, and then she broke up with me. I was like, whoa, who could have fucking seen this coming?
That's incredible.
And you know, I wouldn't worry too hard about it because people that are very strong individuals, especially outspoken and strong individuals, they're gonna fucking tell you, right? So you're never going to be like caught off guard. It's never going to come out of fucking thin air, right? And then I would also say, someone in my chat brought up something that I was thinking about, the idea of knowing what the other person's love language is. Like, you can Google this. I don't know them all off the top of my head, right? But like, some people enjoy gift giving, like, ass eating. Yeah, like sometimes that's a very, very good way of showing your affection for someone. But some people like giving and receiving gifts. Some people enjoy quality time. Some people enjoy, any number of things, right? Eating ass is gift giving. You're very right there, City Cat. So knowing what their love language is and what your love language is, how you express that you're affectionate towards someone, right? These are things that you can recognize what theirs is, what they expect out of someone that is dating them, right? And you can do those things for them, and that's a good way to, be a better partner in general. And this is for anyone. It's not just for people with strong girlfriends. Oh, some acts of service, gifts, words of affirmation, physical touch, quality time, things like that.
I'm a physical touch boy. When my girlfriend gives me a hug, that's what I like. Hug me, please. Can I have a hug, please? Can you hold my hand, please?
Hold my hand,
please. Yeah. Also, Kat, you're wrong. Kat's dead wrong. All right, and lots of women do this. All right, lots of women do this. Sorry.
All women are wrong in this regard. What was the problem?
Is it women perceiving male emotions as weakness, or is it other men? Kat said 100% other men. Wrong. Incredibly one of the most wrong things
wrong.
Lots of women, they love doing this. It's the same thing, dude. It's not me. It's not me. It's them. It's all them. No, wrong. Women do this a lot. Women hold up the patriarchy a lot. He should always pay. He should be the strong one. He should always be taller. All right. And sometimes you can say, sure, it's the patriarchy that made women want some of these things. It can be sometimes. It can be. But sometimes lots of women just uphold that, and it's really bad. Some guys go to their girlfriends and they cry and they're like, look at this fucking bitch. I can't believe he's actually crying. That's disgusting. And they dump his ass. They do that. Some boyfriends go to their girlfriends and they tell them really personal, sad stuff, and they go spread that shit everywhere. That happens. I'm sorry. It just does. So some women, lots of women actually, hold up toxic masculinity. And I think lots of girls do not know that they do.
Yeah.
But
it's men putting us on that, though. Well, I'll just say this: while it might be like the initial, like the societal thing is kind of, or the societal structure is kind of made there by men for the patriarchy, et cetera, et cetera. Women do help uphold that, even if it was men who created it and uphold it at like a structural level, at a societal level. It's both men and women that perpetuate it, right? And so it's not just on men to make it stop, because that's impossible. Men can't make it stop by themselves, Yeah.
If every day, if like, I don't know, some day someone opens the magic genie and they snap their finger and all men stop upholding patriarchy will continue because women uphold it as well. And we can talk about who started it maybe, but women perpetuate it as well, just like men, and they may do it, and they could do it less. They may do it less. They still do it. All right. There are lots of women out there who will tell like other girls that they look disgusting and no men will ever love them because this and that. They don't wear enough makeup. They aren't skinny enough. This happens a lot with beauty standards. Lots of women uphold those beauty standards as well. All right. This happens, but I think that we can call that an episode. Thank you everybody for watching. You are watching the Antidote podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Once again, if you are MGTOW adjacent, if you are MGTOW, you know what? You can hit us up if you saw this and you're angry. If you're so angry, you can tell me about what that irrational mind is talking about, bud, and maybe we can have you on. We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, and like you can, like, even if you aren't comfortable coming on stream, like there's always there's always the possibility of if I mean, I'm certainly down to have a conversation with someone off stream. If you're like actually in this in these communities and you want to talk to someone about it and with someone that's not going to judge you, like I'm open to talk off stream before I go live and stuff like that. So
yeah, I talk to lots of people off stream. This can just be another one. That's perfectly fine. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all for watching. You can find us everywhere. I'm Shark300 and this is my good co-host Sond Soul. And we are the Antidote podcast going live every Thursday on Twitch and going live on and the videos are posted to YouTube as well, and maybe to some other platforms. We're just gonna have to see about that in the future. Thank you so much for watching. Next episode is going to be about making friendships, keeping friendships, small talk, and some other great things. We have a lot of things to say about it. If you enjoyed, you could always hit the follow. You could subscribe. If you see this on YouTube, you can sub. And below this video right now, and below the stream as well, if you're watching this right now, you can see all of our links. Mods, can I get an SO for Sond?
I just shouted you out on my
beautiful. And that's where you can find us. Thank you so much for watching The Antidote, and I'll see you all next time.